So excited that you guys are here. I hope that you find today to be really thought-provoking and a valuable use of your time. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy morning to do this. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mike Johnson. I lead our sales and marketing organization here at Redpath Consulting Group. And one of the things I love about my job is so we combine sales and marketing. So what that really did from a people and process perspective is removed a lot of the silos that sometimes are in organizations. And then from a technology perspective, we're making a lot of really cool improvements as well with our alignment as an organization. So that's a little bit about me. A little bit about Redpath for those of you that don't know who Redpath is. Next slide. Thank you, Joe. So Redpath Consulting Group, been around since 2008. Our headquarters is actually right above us, right here. So we get to hear all kinds of really fun things happening down here throughout the day sometimes. And we have about 40 full-time staff now, growing pretty quickly. We've done over 850 projects across 350 organizations, mainly here in the Twin Cities, really high-touch local organization, but actually across about 14 states from coast to coast as well. We've done projects. We focus in the nonprofit as well as for-profit sectors. We got 4 separate teams focusing on all these different industry verticals. We're really excited that you're here today. We have over 140 years of Salesforce experience and over 120 certifications across our organization. So that's enough about Redpath, enough about me. Actually, a little bit more about me. So I have been, you'll get to know me a little bit here. I have been with the same girl for over 17 years, been married for almost 10. We have 3 beautiful boys together. They're ages 7 and under. And so what that means is they don't go on dad's adventures quite yet. So a few years ago, myself and some dad friends, we decided that we need to get off the grid for a weekend every year, just totally off the grid. And some of us were Boy Scouts, some of us weren't. We decided, let's do something really fun. One of us owned a boat, so 19.5-foot boat, huge boat. And we were really good at boating on Lake Johanna. So we decided, you know what, this will translate really well to Lake Superior. Let's go do that. And so, has anybody heard of the Apostle Islands? Yeah? Oh, yes, absolutely, a few people. Okay. I call it the Hawaii of the Midwest. It's wonderful. It's about 22 little islands. Some of them are bigger. It's off northern Wisconsin, off Bayfield Peninsula. Wonderful area, and you should take a proper boat to get to them. So when we went, a little story about that. So our very first year, we were ready. We brought the boat up there. We had all our supplies. We had our camping gear. We're ready to do this. And we had a really fun vision in mind for the weekend. And so this was our vision for the weekend. It's going to be beautiful. This is actually the Apostle Islands here. And we decided, you know what, let's make a really fun trip to the islands. Instead of going straight to the islands, let's start in Duluth. Let's go up the coast of Minnesota for a while. Let's try to get up to Grand Marais. And then we'll just cut across all the open waters to the islands. That'll be really fun. And again, things are, very predictable on Lake Superior. So we decide to do that. We look at the weather, and it says 2 to 4 foot swells on the lake. We didn't really know what that meant. We said, okay, well, that doesn't sound too bad. So we're going up the coast. It's getting really windy, just even on the coast of Minnesota. And we said, we probably shouldn't go all the way up to Grand Marais. Let's cut across now. So we cut across over 35 miles of open water. We really couldn't see where we were going except for the GPS that we had, which was not too reliable. And long story short, we were in a constant state of emergency that entire trip. This next slide kind of shows what the waters looked like. We expected that. This is really what it was the entire time. So we finally got to an island, probably 10 o'clock at night. Wasn't a campsite. We didn't really know where we were. We just got onto this beach and decided and we hung out there the whole weekend. So obviously there was a lot of fun times. But we decided, okay, well, we should probably try to get home as well. So on Sunday, we set off. We get a few hundred yards off the island, and our engine's overheating. And we're stuck in these 2 to 3 foot swells. And I see some of you going, oh, because you're like, what are you doing? The Coast Guard's not for you. So engine overheats, we're stuck, we can't find our emergency radio anywhere, no cell signal, of course. And so we went, what do we do? So 2 of the guys jump, we're only a few hundred yards off, they jump into 57-degree water, they swim to the island, hoping to hike and hoping to find somebody somewhere. I sat with another dad, because of course I was the brave one that stayed, and we literally, hope was our only strategy. We literally had no idea what was going to happen. We were throwing out an anchor to try to stay in one spot. One of the times we threw it out, it fell off the rope. So we have no anchor. We're floating aimlessly. We have no idea what's going to happen. Literally had no idea what's going to happen. Yes, we laughed at it. We laugh at it now. But to be honest, we think back to that. Literally, we looked at the pictures. We thought back on that. We went, oh my goodness, there had to have been divine intervention or something. But it was not smart. It was not a smart trip. You see the 5 Ps up there. No, you can go back. Thank you. You see the 5 Ps on top. Anybody know what that stands for? Paul, you can't answer. I know, Paul has the 6 Ps, but we're going to stick with the 5. So prior preparation prevents poor performance, right? Or proper preparation. So we were prepared. Honestly, we spent a long time plotting this out. We were absolutely prepared, what we felt like was prepared to get across this lake, but we didn't have the right tools. We didn't have anybody that actually knew what they were doing to get through swells like that. And we were absolutely in a constant state of emergency the entire time. After this session, if you want to hear more stories about how we finally got back, the story doesn't end, but I'll leave it at that. Here's the sad part of the story, though. If something did happen to us, it's not just us that it would have affected. It would have affected our family. It would have affected our wives, our children, our community, our employers, our employees. It would have had a huge ripple effect because of our choice to not be very prepared for this trip. And honestly, part of just our ego going, we can do this. We can get through it. Now, we've done this trip another couple times, much more prepared, but we have practice. It's repeatable now. But how does that relate to why we're here today? So maybe some of you can tie it together. But when you're embarking on a technology transformation, CRM or otherwise, if you're not prepared, it can really have detrimental effects on the organization, on yourself, on your team, on the organization. Some of you serve a wide array of volunteers and the community. And if you're not prepared and you don't understand why you're doing this and you don't have a plan to actually get it done, you could be in a constant state of emergency. In fact, as a lot of the organizations that we interact with are in that state of emergency. And although we're happy to help, we'd prefer you to not be there. And I know that as an organization at Redpath, we really pride ourselves in helping organizations get to a state where they don't have to be in a state of emergency, where they don't have to rely on us every single day, where you have a sustainable platform for success. So with that, I'm going to introduce Eric Gunderson. Eric Gunderson's on my team. He's been here a little over 2 years. He has had 2 promotions in the sales organization over those 2 years. Part of that's due to really good performance, but honestly, Eric is he's really genuine, passionate, curious, team-oriented guy. Just so proud that he's on our team, and he's going to be moderating our session here today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric to introduce your panel, and we'll get going.
Hello, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Eric Gunderson, Senior Account Executive here at Redpath, and I know we're running just a few minutes behind, so I'm going to quickly do some introductions of our 3 panelists today, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the conversation. So first and foremost, these 3 individuals, incredible thought leaders, incredibly passionate individuals. I'm so excited to have you all here today to listen to them and their opinions and what they have to say. Paul Selway is one individual here on the panel. He's the president and co-founder of Redpath. He's a 5 times certified Salesforce consultant and has worked with global, large enterprise, mid-market, growth, education, and nonprofit organizations. His diverse experience and technological brilliance enables him to effectively align cross-functional teams to common goals. In 2016, Paul developed what is now known as the Path to Success. It's a success blueprinting approach that is designed to align an organization's CRM vision with the overall vision for the organization. Paul is known for his British accent and his unwavering desire to ensure clients and employees are successful. Next, we have Jamin O'Malley. Jamin O'Malley is a principal consultant who leads one of Redpath's nonprofit teams. He is a 3 times certified Salesforce consultant with more than 7 years of Salesforce experience in both consulting and as a former administrator at a local Twin Cities nonprofit. He is one of Redpath's most experienced consultants, guiding clients through the path to success and working with them to define their CRM vision. Jamin is known for his beautiful beard, quick-witted humor, and his dedication and passion to serving the many nonprofits he works with. And lastly, Ash SanFilippo. He's our special guest today. Ash is the Director of Strategic Initiatives at TreeHouse, a Minnesota-based nonprofit that has been serving teens since 1979, helping them build relationships and resiliency rooted in living hope. Ash is committed to helping TreeHouse end hopelessness among teens by leveraging Salesforce to drive relational outreach. He has been with TreeHouse for 10 years and has been working in technology solutions for 5 years. With all that said, I'd like to welcome these guys up, and we can go ahead and get started. Paul, let's kick things off with you. What is a CRM vision, and why is it important?
So we first probably should start with what a vision is. Each of you works for an organization. Each of those organizations has a vision. The CRM vision should be complementary. It should align to your organizational vision. So when we say CRM vision, we're not saying let's throw away your organizational vision and just make it a CRM vision. I don't think that would be fair. We're saying we align the two. And then with a vision comes a strategy and then a plan. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go through today.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Can you briefly explain maybe what the path to success is and what it means and why you created it?
Yes. One of the things I found as we were working with our for-profit and non-profit clients was when we got there, we said, what do you want? And they said, what should we want? And I said, well, where are you going? And, well, where can we go? And it became clear to me that there was a need at the highest level to have something that aligned with their organizational mission. So one of the things we created was the path to success. And the first thing it starts to talk about is, what is your CRM vision? And that vision can be different for every organization. But typically it's about engaging your customers and your prospects and your constituents and doing it in a way that's not siloed. And then the next thing we looked at is, how do you know you got what you wanted? What does done look like? And so we started talking about success metrics. What are you going to measure in your CRM? And if you measure that, is that a good thing? Does that show you've got what you expected? And then once we talked about the success metrics, we said, where are you today? And normally, actually, we've not found an organization that can't tell us where they are today. When you start recording where they are today, there's some aha moments. It's almost like holding a mirror up. Oh, yes, we do have 20 systems that don't talk to each other, and that's causing some organizational pain. How many of you out there have siloed systems? How many of you out there like siloed systems? You see the problem. So we'll look at the current state from a people, process, and data perspective. And then we'll look at the technology as well, how you're doing that. And then we'll look at the future state. We will engage you in the voice of the customer and really understand why you want to change and where you want to go to. What is that future state? And in many cases, we'll help you envision and imagine that. And then we'll do a gap analysis. Getting from the current state to the future state probably isn't a single step. It's probably a set of steps, and it's a prioritized set of steps where really it's focused on what is your current pain and how can we get rid of that pain as quickly as possible. And finally, once we've done that gap analysis, we'll create what's known as a roadmap. And that roadmap really describes each of the different phases you need to take and why you need to take them. And then as we get that roadmap in place, we will estimate out stage one, so you know how much time you need to put into it, how much it might cost, what does that technology summary look like, and we'll create a findings and recommendations report. And one of the things in there would be something that's really exciting. It's called governance. How many people here love governance? Anyone love governance? Anyone know what it is? Anyone want to tell me what governance is? Oh, you're a quiet lot. The idea is you want to make sure that if you build something, you change it in a thoughtful way. So you don't have everyone in there changing everything all at the same time, because that's chaos. So sometimes governance is a very good thing. And the idea we have behind the path to success is, without a roadmap or a plan, it's very difficult to turn a vision into a strategy and then into an executable plan. The idea behind this is you really need to know where you're going before you start the journey. Mike, I think, had an example of that earlier.
Thanks, Paul. Jamin, you have experience really on both sides of the table, executing a CRM vision for both Redpath as a consultant and also as at the local nonprofit in which you used to work. Can you tell us maybe how organizations might get started documenting their CRM strategy and what types of questions they should be able to answer internally?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. When I was a client, I started by identifying what our mission is. And obviously that's usually articulated pretty well. Hopefully you have it plastered around your office somewhere, or at least it's someplace referenceable. So that's step one. Step two is starting to identify what in your organization is an impediment to fulfilling that mission. Whether that mission is profit, is outreach, it doesn't matter what the mission is. What are the impediments to that? Is it disorganization? Is it everyone manages something via email and not a CRM? Is it, as Paul mentioned, X number of systems, 20, 30, 40 plus systems that don't talk to each other? Is it personnel related? Is it training related? Is it technology related? So when it comes to identifying those challenges, it doesn't take long to start to identify those pain points, especially if you're living them every day. And so on the consulting side, what we do and what we've engaged with Ash on is drawing out those kind of aspects and asking those leading questions about where are there challenges? What do you use for email to CRM to in the case of volunteers, what are you using for background checks? You know, anything that that touches that mission, which really in and of itself is every aspect of the organization. The administration, the organization, all supports that mission, or at least it should. And so as you're doing that, you'll start to identify some priorities. Where are those pain points that need the most attention? And it might be that we have a funding gap. So if you're a nonprofit, it might be we need to get a sense of where are our donors and meet them where they are so we can increase our donor base. If you're a for-profit, it could be we need to efficiently get our manufacturing process or our service process articulated and relay that out to our customers so that we can have more funding coming in, more sales coming in. If it's not necessarily funding related, it could be program related. Again, whether it's a service for-profit or nonprofit, what's impeding you from delivering the best quality product, regardless of what that product is? What's impeding you from delivering the best possible product to your constituents, to your customers, to your clients?
Ash, I'd like to turn over to you now. You've been with TreeHouse for quite a while, and in technology for also quite a while. How did you know that TreeHouse needed a CRM vision and strategy, and what were some of the signs that your organization was exhibiting?
So, like many of you, I saw a lot of hands go up when we talk about siloed systems. TreeHouse is very true to that. When we did our Path to Success, we found we had 35 systems, 2 of them integrated with one another. And we are in a rapid growth phase. Our budget has doubled over the last 3 years, or our revenue has doubled over the last 3 years. The number of teens we're serving has also doubled in that same amount of time, and we've gone from having 10 locations to over 30 locations in the last 4 years. So the organization itself was taking off, and essentially our program database was built in SharePoint, and it was more or less a complicated compilation of Excel spreadsheets with some pivot tables. So we knew that was not going to cut it. What we didn't really think through was, and this was the Path to Success really helped with this, was an overall strategy. So we were preparing to spend a lot of money to make another big mistake, and that is keep all of our systems siloed again, just coming up with another solution that is more scalable just for the teen side of the organization. So we felt the need, because our system, we were running up against walls, we were having to archive data in order to keep the system working, because we were adding so much more information into it so rapidly. And then recognizing we actually wanted an integrated strategy, not just another siloed system, because for those of you who work in nonprofits, you know how vital it is related to fundraising and grants that you can bring financial data and teen data or program data together, so that you can more effectively raise funds.
Jamin, can you give us a high-level overview of the process in defining and documenting one's CRM vision? Who needs to be involved? What are some of the most critical steps, and so on?
Absolutely. So this is actually one of my favorite parts of consulting. It's when I get to talk with the client and the selection of people at the client's organization to really understand what it is you do and how do you do that. So it's really important, after you've kind of articulated that CRM vision, to identify who are the stakeholders in the organization that relate to what I was talking about earlier about what impedes you in delivering your mission. So who are the stakeholders? Are they directors? Are they managers? Are they the people who are they the quote-unquote boots on the ground that are literally delivering your program or delivering your products to your constituents and to your consultant or to your clients? So we help guide through and identify, okay, so you've identified some of these pain points. And we'll start with, for instance, when we began working with TreeHouse, we started with an interview just with Ash. And he was the point person for kind of articulating those pain points. Ash had been with the organization at that point up to 9 years, had 9 years of history, including delivering some of the very programming that they're continuing to deliver today. So Ash had a great perspective of what the organization's mission was, what they were trying to do, and what was impeding them from being able to do that, as Ash started to articulate just a moment ago. Through those conversations, we started to get kind of a high-level understanding of where those pain points were. And from that, we could identify who all needed to be there in terms of being able to get additional details. So we conduct what are called voice of the customer or voice of the client interviews, a series of questions that are fairly broad, but allow us to do a deeper dive if we need to, as we're identifying what those particular challenges are and where there are areas that need focus. And so through the course of those voice of the customer, voice of the client interviews, we start to understand the story. We start to understand within each of the different departments or different program areas, where are the impediments to delivering on your mission. So as we start to understand that, we also document all the different systems. Ash mentioned 35 plus different systems, ranging from email to background checks to their HR system to SharePoint as their kind of CRM system at the time, and so on. And so through that, we'll what we try and do is, if you imagine a cross section of the earth, we're trying to get as even a cross section of the top soil of all the different areas that you've identified that are an impediment to you delivering your mission. We won't do a huge deep dive because that will start to get us down the road of solutioning, but we want to get a broad understanding of where you are and meet you at that point. So from there, we'll then start to understand what are the systems and are there personnel, are there training opportunities, are there different other things outside of technology that are preventing any of your delivery. And from there, we'll start to document some of the options. Obviously, we are a partner of Salesforce, so it's going to have generally a solution is going to be geared towards Salesforce, but it is entirely possible that we might recommend and say, Salesforce actually isn't for you. And that's one of the values that we serve as a path to success, as a valuable partner, is being able to say, well, we feel like we understand you well enough to know that this might not be the right fit, and here's what might be within that spectrum. So through that process, through a lot of discovery and discussion with these individuals, and taking copious notes, we start to document what that recommendation would be. Paul mentioned what that path is, what that path to success is. And no path to success, just like every organization is different, every path to success project is going to be different because it takes a different path depending on who's involved and what the challenges are of that particular organization. We may be focused on just one department, such as fundraising or advancement, or it might be, in the case of TreeHouse, it was everything. Literally everything was on the table in terms of the organization as far as what they needed to try and address. And so from there, we were able to articulate, here are some possible solutions for the advancement team, for the accounting team, for the program team, even grants management, and so on. And we then kind of boiled that down into what was our recommendation in terms of the steps to proceed. We heard loud and clear in those Voice of the Customer interviews that programming was front and center for TreeHouse. And so we focused right away. Step one, or phase one, if you will, was articulating and working through the program management side of things. And then we identified that they have a partner network, so that's expanding their program delivery outside beyond their own backyard. And then we've identified that there would be the advancement team, the fundraising team, and accounting, which are tied together. So we've kind of been able to identify those high-level phases or buckets, if you will, of focus. From there, we also articulate a high-level solution map, which can often take the form of a visual aid, where we articulate some possible solutions in terms of, broadly speaking, what, again, if it's a Salesforce solution, what are the products or the clouds from Salesforce that are going to play a role in that articulated solution. We then wrap all that together in a final presentation that articulates what did we hear, who did we talk to, what did we hear. The artifacts or the deliverables may be different depending on the organization and depending on that path to success experience. The point of the path to success is that it is flexible and malleable to adjust and handle whatever comes up along that path that we're going through that discovery. So it's agile in that approach so that we can flex as we need to.
Thank you, Jamin. And Ash, as you know, the path to success really kind of covered a broad array through TreeHouse, right, involving multiple individuals from the organization really to kind of drive out the holistic view of what the grand vision is for TreeHouse. I know you were heavily involved in the project, but would love to hear what some of the things that you heard from leaders, from the end users, from boots on the ground. What were some of the most valuable things that you learned, that they learned, and that the organization learned from the exercise?
Yeah, so for those of us who work, and this is probably all of us, in a mission-driven business or organization, so many of us come from a mission mindset and less from a technology expertise mindset. And so you have people who are really good at relationships, doing fundraising. You have people who are really good at writing, doing grants. You have people who are really good at outreach, doing your programs. So I think every constituent in our organization learned the value of technology and the value of approaching technology kind of in its own right. Technology should serve us in what we're doing, but sometimes I think it's easy to not respect technology for what it is and kind of think of it as a secondary item to what we're doing, not recognizing that if you put time and effort into the technology, it can actually accelerate what you're doing. And kind of a concrete example of that, our Salesforce solution for our program staff has made it so that they can now do real-time reporting, which they weren't able to do before. So we are able to see teens who have dropped off of the program and re-engage them into the programming that they need. And we've seen the number of teens we're serving kind of do a J curve because our staff actually have the information they need and the technology they need to be able to manage that many teens and that much data at once. So I think overall, to answer your question, a recognition that technology is important, a technology vision is important, and to bring everything into one system is vital.
Thank you, Ash. And Jamin, you were heavily involved in the project as well, so I'm just going to kind of go off script a little bit. What were some of the things that you recognized from your experience, not only in consulting but also as a former nonprofit employee?
Absolutely. Nonprofit is in my blood. It's my passion. It's why I'm proud to lead one of our nonprofit teams at Redpath. So I mentioned earlier I get to kind of, it's my favorite part where I get to work and talk with the individuals. And my experience with TreeHouse was no exception. Ash and I immediately connected. The beard helps. It's kind of an icebreaker, sometimes literally if it's really cold outside. But it often softens the approach as well. But the experience was great. I love geeking out and finding out what are the different organizations in our own backyard here in Minnesota or more broadly speaking, and what is it they're doing. For every idea you have about a deliverable in terms of a product, a service, a program, there is likely an organization out there that is delivering that. And I love finding out more. I have a personal history. When I was a kid, I was involved with one of the first youth-run youth centers in the state of Minnesota, indeed in the nation. So I had a little nugget of kind of personal, identifiable relationship that certainly helped kind of pique that interest. And one thing that was true, and Ash hit on this, everyone within that organization has an idea of how they can leverage their particular skills to deliver on their mission. And our challenge, or my challenge as a consultant, and our challenge as a consulting team, and indeed a whole team that involves the client as well, is finding out what those strengths are. How do you leverage them? And from a technology standpoint, how can you accelerate those skills so you don't, and eliminate the impediments so that you can deliver on your mission more effectively, more efficiently,
And that's really what gets me going, is being able to fully understand what each organization is doing and how can we make that better? How can we make you perform better in whatever the arena that is? And I've had the pleasure of working with Ash and the greater TreeHouse team for over a year now, starting with the Path to Success, and indeed going through. We've wrapped up the first phase of that articulated vision, and are steeped right now in the second phase of that, and looking ahead at a possible third phase as well. So it's a testament to the relationship that we've been able to cultivate, and also the vision and the strength of the Path to Success as it relates to finding out what that exact path is. What is the road to success, and what does success mean for your organization?
Yeah, having a good, clear, concise direction on where you want to go is so critically important to every single organization, to reduce redundancies, create efficiencies. It really just kind of drive out what that overall plan for the organization is. Final question to all of you all. And with that said, what are some of the things that these individuals can take back to their organizations today to help kind of leverage kind of the first steps in documenting the overall vision in a kind of a clear, concise manner for CRM?
I'll answer that. But first of all, I want to find out who our audience is here today. How many of you would say you work for a non-profit? Good chunk of you. How many work for a commercial organization, a for-profit? Another chunk of you. How many of you run around saying, I need a CRM? 2. Why are you here? The idea behind it is no one needs a CRM. At the end of the day, what you need is you work in an organization. The organization has people in it. The organization has a mission, and your job is to really deliver outcomes based on that mission. And the key thing for me is if you can't align your mission to what you're doing and where you're going, you have a problem. Because the chances are you're going to be on Lake Superior in a similar situation to Mike. So that would be the takeaway. Know where you're going, know where that North Star is, and plan.
I'd like to add to that. I mentioned earlier starting to articulate and identify what are the impediments to you being able to deliver on your mission. I'm sure each of you have at least a top 3 or top 5 hit list going through your head of things that prevent either you yourself or the entire organization from delivering on that mission. And it doesn't take long to start to talk to members of your staff, members of your team to help try to articulate that. And really, that's something you can take right away. You can start talking about the around the water cooler about what is that, and start to identify what is needed to change and adjust your organization so you can reach and better deliver on your mission, and indeed reach whatever goals you have, whether that's a 3-year goal, a 5-year goal, or 20-year goal. What is preventing you from doing that? And knowing that a CRM or indeed a platform, a cloud-based platform, might be the solution to helping remove those barriers so that you can deliver. To sum that up, start to identify and articulate what those impediments are to you being able to deliver on your mission. And keep that list.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add, I think these guys pretty much said it all. But as I've worked with the team at TreeHouse, as we've built out a pretty robust system, I've tried to allow people to say, wouldn't it be cool if we could do X? And that's a different way of looking at the pain points. But then you start thinking of some of the additional value. It's easy to think, well, we do this in our current system now, so we're able to do that exact same thing, but better. And that's kind of our goal. But you can look at it even beyond that, where there's things you can't do in your current system now. And wouldn't it be cool if you could? And how much efficiency you could create and how much staff time you could free up to work towards your mission.
Excellent. One other thing I'd love to share with you, and I've probably been personally involved in hundreds of CRM implementations, is there is a tendency as human beings to want to model the systems you have today in the new system. So make your CRM in the image of the systems you don't like. So be careful, think about that. There's a tendency to want to create your new CRM in the image of the systems you do not like. So a bit of forward thinking is what's needed. What do I really want? Because one of the things I think a lot of people underestimate is how difficult change is from a human perspective. Because you've got to create some value for the people that are going to be using the new system. And most of those people are going to want it to look just like the one they have today. So there's going to be some effort to move it to the new reality. And don't underestimate, some people will be laggards. They won't want to move. And if you actually go into a room and you say, who wants to change? Who wants to change now? A lot of people will put their hands up. And you're asked the question, who wants to lead that change? And not so many people are putting their hands up. And who wants to do that change now? And all of a sudden, there's not many people putting their hands up at all. Change is hard, just accept that. Got a plan for it.
Great. Thank you all very much. That concludes our panel. Feel free to stick around and meet new folks and eat some of the rest of our food. Otherwise, we have to bring it up, and the rest of the Redpath employees will get to take it. So, all right. Thank you all.